we have specific actions and algorithms that that take into account you know, what kind of house that somebody has, their roof, which they can change, and a variety of other different things that people can actually see what they can do to in their home to integrate that renewable energy resource. Trying to see if I can find a good example of that right now. But essentially, so essentially the way that we deal with that is by integrating that into the recommendations. If I'm able to find one here in a second, I'll show it to you actually. So if you guys can see this. So for example, installing solar panels. We make assumptions about the amount of square feet someone's going to install, the efficiency of the solar panels, talking about whether they're going to adjust the angle, and then we use that to calculate the solar the energy produced by the solar energy. So you can see some of the assumptions we use for that.
Andy, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. When you guys start programs with utilities, how do you choose which group of people actually go into your program, or do you enroll the entire population, or is that determined by you or the utility?
Sure. I mean, it's done in concert. We work with the utility to define any populations where they have sort of specific goals. Generally, we want to choose households that we think are gonna convert well for a variety of reasons, but we also want to make sure to choose a relatively representative set of customers that we know that we can scale once we get beyond the pilot stage. So it's done in concert, and sometimes there's a geographic focus based on which communities are sort of very excited. So, for example, in our Western Mass Saves program, there are 4 communities that are competing with each other to try to save the most energy, and their reward will be solar PV on a public building for the communities that are able to achieve that, and these communities have committed to try to achieve that. It's being run through that specific part of the program is being run through a marketing partner of ours, Smart Power. There was another part of the question, I think, in terms of in terms of who it's open to. So usually it's open to we send mailers to a smaller subsection of the population, but usually the program is open to all different all of the service territories customers. In the rewards portion, we usually have a limit on, and it's sort of on a first come first served basis.
And then again, looking forward, and you touched on this a little bit, how is advanced metering and the introduction of electric vehicles and kind of the evolution of the grid over the next few years, how do you think that'll affect the way you guys do business and what you're able to achieve with your software and analysis?
Sure. I mean, we're very excited about all the data streams that are going to be available from those sources. I mean, what it does is just allows us to target households more effectively and more granularly. So with vis-a-vis smart meter data, we can tell people exactly how much we expect them to save on a given day based on their rate, based on the weather patterns, based on their home characteristics, and based on what we're able to detect from from their hourly or sub-hourly usage data, which is pretty exciting. We can do that to some extent even without that, but having that data makes it a lot better. Electric vehicles, sort of same thing. Obviously the penetration on that is extremely low as of right now, but once that gets going in the country, that type of data is also going to be able to be used to tell them for their circumstances when should they charge their car, when should they not charge it, et cetera, et cetera. The key thing again is being able to have a dynamic model of someone's home that can always take in more information, but isn't dependent on any specific data source at any given time.
Great, thanks. And then last question. We're approaching 1 o'clock. So ultimately, there may come a point where we run out of the behavior-based energy efficiency opportunities. Everyone's eaten that low-hanging fruit, and we have to move on to bigger, more ambitious goals. Where do you think your product will evolve, and where do you think the opportunities will be in the next few years? And does demand response play any role in that going forward?
Sure. So, this is something that we hear a lot, and sort of similar to my answer earlier about the sort of the in-home audit space. I think it just reflects a logical fallacy in thinking about energy use. We do not define behavioral energy efficiency as people simply turning off the lights and turning down their air conditioner in the summer, et cetera, et cetera. Things that don't cost anything. We view behavior as actually changing people's energy behavior throughout. So their purchasing behavior as well as their income, their in-home conservation behavior. And so the philosophy we take is that the sky's the limit really for how much energy they can be saved. It's just a matter of how you motivate people to save that energy. So we encourage all of our participants to basically, again, like I said, go through that food chain of efficiency, and the goal is always to get them to take more larger investments that are really going to save them a lot of energy by replacing their heating and cooling systems, getting insulation done, replacing their appliance stock, et cetera, et cetera. What we don't think, though, is that anybody is going to want something to be prescribed to them without it being either personalized and without them having a choice. So we really think that the best way to get to where we need to get to eventually, and to go beyond the sort of very, very low-hanging fruit, is to get better at learning how to engage consumers around energy efficiency, which is something that, for all the talk, frankly, is not something that is well understood, and that we're trying to do our part in it, but there's still a lot that needs to be known about how people make energy decisions, how to incentivize them, et cetera, et cetera. And so, looking at it from let's not use the term behavior, looking at it from a purely consumer marketing point of view, you want to find what is the best way to get people to save energy in a variety of different ways and at a variety of different levels. And so it's going to be a learning process for the industry. The key thing there is having, for the sort of program administrator industry, is to have very, very clear guidance on how sort of program incentives are set up. So how much is it worth to save a megawatt hour of electricity? And then number two, very, very clear guidelines on how everything is evaluated. And there are sort of ad hoc standards here and there, but it's very important to have a common guideline. In terms of the demand response component, I think that's going to become more and more important the more that smart meters are rolled out, and I think that's also going to become more important as the rules, as the market rules and the grid operators become more transparent and rigid in terms of, again, the economic value that's associated with saving a kilowatt of energy at any given time, in a way that can be trued up through actual bill analysis, as opposed to models or verifying that you called somebody and told them to turn on their air conditioner someday.
Well, great, Andy. That concludes this talk by Andy Frank. Andy, we really, really appreciate you coming out and describing your product analysis and speaking a little bit about the future of energy efficiency from a software perspective. Thank you so much. For all the audience and viewers out there, this talk will be made available through Yale iTunes University. If you'd like a copy of the presentation, please visit the website, the Center for Business and Environment at Yale. The presentation will be under the Carbon Finance Speaker Series for this particular talk. Thanks again for joining us for the Blueprint for Efficiency, part of the Carbon Finance Speaker Series at Yale and MIT. This is Tim Fu from the MIT Energy Club signing off on behalf of the MIT Energy Club and the Center for Business and the Environment at Yale. Thanks so much, and have a great week. Take care.